Hello, everyone. Welcome back to another fun week of Workshop Wednesday. My name is Tyler, and we are going to get right into it. Going to get do some drawing here. So today's focus is on fantasy and sci-fi or science fiction landscapes. So we're going to go a little sort of out there. And a lot of, if you're ever looking for inspiration on this stuff, this type of drawing, we'll often look up concept artwork for video games or sci-fi movies like Star Wars or Star Trek or something like that. A lot of the concepts or things that we're going to be doing are not all that different from regular sort of normal landscapes. But we're just going to sort of exaggerate a few things a little bit here and there. So supplies, super simple. Again, just every week we pretty much something that you're comfortable drawing with. Pencils, pens, markers, pencil crayons. If you have some of the examples in watercolor, so if you have paint, you're more than welcome to do that, but it's not necessary. And then another option is a circle for tracing, and then you can use a ruler or something like that if you want to get some straight lines later on. All right, so let's move this aside. I have some examples here that I'm going to show you, a few that I've drawn. These two that I have under the camera here, you can see there's just a very tiny, small character looking in there. So we have a big, like a big, huge landscape and like big things going on. And then we have a really sort of small character. And that's what I like when I'm working on these types of landscapes or this kind of work, because it really elevates the sort of grandiose or the feeling of everything feeling so large and so big. So that's one of the first things that I like to do to achieve that. And here's another one. We've got these big clouds, and these two characters kind of look like they're riding buffalo or something like that. So we start out by following a lot of the common landscape drawing, landscape painting drawing techniques that we would normally use. That being starting with a horizon line, making sure we're drawing in a background and a foreground and a middle ground and all that stuff. So maybe I'll work off this one here, and we'll walk through this one sort of step by step. This is another fun example. This one's a little more whimsical, but you can see there's some sort of fun stuff going on. All right, so as I mentioned, we're going to start with a horizon line. So on this one, you can really see the horizon line where the sky meets the ground is quite low in the picture. Okay, sometimes your horizon lines will be sort of midway through or closer to the top. But for these ones, I like to go really low. So that way I can have lots of big, sort of a really big sky going on in my picture. All right, so I'm going to sketch that along. I'm just going to sort of draw it kind of a straight line to start. We will change that as we go. And I'm going to put maybe some of these mountains back here. And I'm just sort of sketching lightly. I will fill in some of this stuff maybe with a marker and add some color. And at this point, I kind of want to now start to add something really large. So even though I've drawn these in, I am going to cover them up quite a bit if I'm going to be sort of following this one. And the things that are large, they don't have to be, you know, these mountains. They can be, like in this one, I did these giant crystals. It can be really whatever you like. Before I do that, I'm going to use my circles, my circle tracing. And I'm going to do a nice big one here. There we go. Now I get a nice kind of round. It could be like a giant sun, could be a planet. Maybe I'll pop a smaller one right in there. Kind of like that. All right, great. So now, like I mentioned, I'm going to put my sort of mountain things in here, and I'm going to start to, let's see. I've got a bit of kind of a slope. So let's do that. Let's draw another line kind of sloping down like this, kind of like that. So this is, you know, our little character maybe is going to be standing right about there. So already, even without these giant mountain things, you look like you have like a really wide sort of expanse, a huge looking landscape with these planets and stuff up here, and you can do lots of fun galaxy sort of stuff with the sky if you want. All right, now I'm going to draw in. Let's go about that high. I'll do that one there, and then I'll do another one maybe here. And this one I'm going to sort of have it come in a little bit, and then it will go kind of off the page like that. All right, so once you've done this, now you can take an eraser if you have one handy. Which I did not, so I had to go dig into my cupboard for it. And I'm going to erase some of these mountain lines that I put in originally, and a bit of this horizon line as well, because that goes behind this big cliff thing. There we go. Now our planets are kind of peeking out from behind, just like that. And my person down here, very, very simple. I'll hold it up close to the camera so you can see. It's just sort of just a little bump and a little head there. Because the person is so small, doesn't require a lot of detail at all. All right, so now that I'm happy with these, I'm going to fill in some of these lines here. And I might start adding in a few extra details and things like that. Maybe there's some sort of bush stuff, some vegetation kind of growing on the side of this cliff. And then as you're doing this, if you want to, you can even sort of put some juts and things, give that a little extra character. Maybe you can make this line, you know, very, very straight. Maybe I'll sort of bring that in a little bit so it looks like this thing is sort of really kind of precariously resting on this bigger rock formation. Actually, that kind of looks like a nose and a face now. So that's another interesting thing that you can add, and I see this a lot in fantasy artwork and sci-fi artwork, is big monoliths or statues, sculptures of people or creatures or monsters or something like that. So you've got, you know, this is kind of a bit of a happy accident here. I've got this formation that looks a bit like a person's face, so maybe that could be, you know, something that a group of folks, you know, carved that out, and it's humongous compared to this tiny little person down here. Now these other things down here, my horizon line, I'm going to draw that in, but nice and like a little bit lighter, and add some bumps and things to it, some irregularities. And this one here also going to be a bit lighter. My planets. Now, if I draw my planets and my mountains, and if I add a great amount of detail to them, they might confuse the overall look of things. Maybe I'll draw a little more back down there. There we go. So the things in your foreground are closer up to these. You want those to have as much, the most amount of detail. And the things kind of in the background, you want them to be a little bit plainer and less detailed, because if these have lots and lots of detail, then they're going to sort of distract from the things in the foreground. I'm just drawing this sort of squiggly line across the mountain there. That can give you kind of a bit of a shadow on this side. All right, and maybe I'll add some color. And this is another place where you can really start to play with things. You know, normally these rock formations might be kind of a gray or like reddish. You can really play with the colors a bit more. Like maybe I'll do like a really red. And then you know, maybe I'll throw in a bit of purple there. So we're thinking of like what we might see if we find this on a whole different planet. So you can get really creative with that sort of stuff. The colors for these mountains in the background, I'm going to do a much more faded. So maybe I'll do like this sort of lighter orange. And my planets up here, I'm going to give them a sort of a different color altogether. So that way, a little bit more from these mountains. So perhaps I'll do, let's see what I have here. It's kind of greenish colors. Just like that. And then maybe this planet down here can be, I'll just do like this end, and then that end I'll leave it kind of white, so it can be kind of a white spot or like a lighter area. You know, maybe this is a moon, and maybe it's like a water planet or something like that. There we go. And for the final effect, let's do some of the ground here as well. This whole bottom part here with the marker, I'm just going to fill all that in, make it nice and dark to make this really stand out. From the rest of the landscape. maybe I'll have some of that dark color kind of creeping in on the sides. I do want this to be gradual. Like I don't want it to be just straight black, then straight to color. So I will sort of fan it out, I guess, or put some more marker lines throughout this here. Put a little buddy there with them. So I've done nothing to the sky, which is fine. My sky is very sort of white. You can add some color to the sky if you like, or you can keep it just sort of blank. That way you've got all this color going on here, and you've got a nice contrast. If you do want to add color, what I might recommend is doing a bit of a sort of a fade. So I've got a very sort of light sort of pink, and that's sort of fading down here to a yellow. I did this with watercolor paint, and you can do it. You can do this kind of thing with anything, with any material that you want. I did a bit of fading here and there with these, just sort of quick. If you want to sort of take a bit more time, you can. Where's the reds? You can blend your colors a little bit more here and there. Even with pencil crayons or markers, make them blend a bit more. Just like that. Maybe I should put more of that purple right in here. And then this purple, I'll maybe blend to a darker violet. Just like that. So there you go. We've got a bit of a science fiction, fantasy landscape. I'll throw up a few more of my other examples here so you can see it. Looking for inspiration for stuff like this. As for one of the best places to look is if you have like video games or books or television shows that are fantasy or science fiction. If you do a Google search, concept art, because a lot of artists for those production sketches kind of like these. So yeah, concept art for fantasy or science fiction, movies, video games. Thank you so much for joining us. Again, my name is Tyler, and we will be back next week for another Workshop Wednesday. Hope you enjoy.